What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the after credit scene. We are talking forecast and predictions for episode 4 of Secret Invasion. Before we get to the good stuff, please like and subscribe to the channel and then share this thing all across the multiverse so you can help us get to 2,000 subscribers. Actually 200 subscribers, but 2,000 would be nice as well. And then well beyond that. Thanks for joining the conversation. Tell us what you think in the comments. Let's get right to it. So obviously, not really a spoiler. Probably already saw this coming, especially if you've seen some of the trailers, but Gaia, not dead. 100% certain of that, but because of that, I think it means that the heat's gonna get turned up on some of these really volatile relationships. Where does Gaia go? How does she find Talos? Is she connected up with Gravik again? Obviously, and when I say connected up with Gravik, obviously he shoots her, so turning on her, her coming back to him is not an option, but does she go off on her own? Does she go back to Talos? What is going on there? Does she play off her role in a way where Gravik doesn't know she's alive? There's a lot of intrigue and some things that they could do here that could be really, really awesome. Also, we got another big reveal at the end of this past episode. Skrull Rhodey, we'll just call him Scrody. Doesn't really sound that great, it's kind of disgusting. But for how long? This is what I want to know. This is what everybody else wants to know. How long has Rhodey been a Skrull? My money is on very briefly. I don't think you can go all the way back to between Iron Man 1 and 2. However hilarious I think that might be, it brings up a lot more issues that Disney and some others would have to grapple with. First and foremost, if Rhodey became a Skrull between Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2, and he walks into the courtroom in Iron Man 2 and Tony Stark just assumes that that's Rhodey, as funny as that would be, you would have to make the assumption that Iron Man, Tony Stark, thinks that most black people look alike because he didn't know the difference between Terrence Howard's version of Rhodey and Don Cheadle's version of Rhodey. And that's a whole can of worms that I don't think anybody wants to get into, even though it would just be ridiculous for them to do that in the first place. Would be an awesome place to actually go back and say, hey, that's where he changed and he looked different. But then you would have to account for why other people just thought that was okay. I think it's more likely that somewhere in the off season here, somewhere between shows and movies that we haven't seen, after Endgame, but before all this, with Rhodes ascending the political ladder, is probably where he became a Skrull. And where he got swapped out. So I think we're going to get some of that, particularly when we see Priscilla or Vara interact with the Skrull version of Rhodey. Another theory that is not mine, but I am well on board with it, not as sure of, but I think it's worth pursuing and talking about, is that there are two versions of Fury here. The idea that Fury is somewhat resigned, everybody keeps talking about how he's different since he came back, that he's been gone. The idea that Fury's lost a step, that he's too old, all of these different things don't really line up with the Fury that we know. And I think it's too easily explained by, well, he had some kind of PTSD from the blip and he's just been consumed with trying to fix this ever since. I don't think that's it. I think that's a red herring. That's something that they're trying to throw you off the scent, and that's not exactly what's going on here. Some people have pointed out that sometimes he's wearing glasses, sometimes he's not. These different elements, and particularly his injury. His injury wouldn't be something unless you were able to look at him and fake it, wouldn't be something that was genetically inherent in him because it happened later, and might be a giveaway as to the glasses and some other things. The glasses also may be some kind of tech that he's using similar to what he did in episode 1. So my money, though, with this Fury theory is that there is a version of Fury that is still gone or that is working in the shadows that we haven't seen yet. Because, and we're going to go ahead and jump a little bit here, we've gotten a lot of groundwork laid, some Easter eggs, some little comments about Fury's secret spy network that the Skrulls helped him create whenever they lived on Earth between the Captain Marvel time period and now, and that was how he was able to ascend the ranks of S.H.I.E.L.D. But we haven't seen Fury's version of this play out from the other side. aside from Vara giving him some information about the Black Widows at the beginning of last episode, we haven't really gotten this big turn or this surprise element like we have with Gravik and his men. And we need to see that with Fury's network. And I think that turn and all the pieces coming into place and the things that have been going on since then has a potential to pop up here, but it wouldn't surprise me if that didn't happen until the end of episode 5 or even in episode 6 as to how are they going to solve this. And so I definitely think this gets way worse before it gets better. Another element of that I want to talk about, I don't think they have given Soren's death enough coverage. They've talked about it. They've shown Fury talking with Talos and commiserating with him and empathizing with him, but they've talked about it several times, but it's always been this cloak and dagger thing. And I wonder if they're speaking in code whenever Talos tells Gaia, your mother's dead. She doesn't really react the way you think she would react. And I don't think that their relationship is so strained that she would just be cold to it. So I think there's something else going on here, whether it's the reason she died or that she's not dead, and maybe it plays into some of this Fury stuff. Maybe it plays into something else here with Rhodes. That could very well be the case as well. We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be interesting to see how they play off some of this stuff and who's who and who's not. They've also jumped way ahead with some of this Super Skrull stuff. We found out in episode 3 that Gravik has already combined some of his DNA with the Extremis DNA, and he already has some Super Skrull brewing in him already. But who else is already a Super Skrull? Could it be that Gaia already has this Extremis power in her, and we're going to see that she has been given that, and that's how she survived? Or are we going to get to see other members of Gravik's team become Super Skrulls and take on some of those different elements that we saw on the computer screen in episode 2? It's going to be really interesting to see. All of this to say, here's where I'm going out on a limb. I'm giving a 70% certainty here that there are some bigger threats going on here. Gravik certainly has an end game, and he is a very formidable, and he's a pretty good villain in terms of what he wants to do, his motivations, taking care of his people and moving forward, and this disdain for the humans. But all of this reference to, Gravik says, oh, I like dogs, and being killed like a dog. And dogs have masters. And if we're going to run with that metaphor, run with that theory, someone else is pulling some strings here with Gravik. And it would be interesting to see how those things line up. Who else is in cahoots with Gravik, or if someone else is funding this, and he's got a lot more help than we might realize. A whole lot going on here, a whole lot to say. I think episode 4 is going to be the beginning of some really big changes, and you're going to start seeing the landscape shift moving into this final battle, which I think will probably happen in episode 5, and then there'll be some cleanup and some residual effects that lead into some other stuff in episode 6. I think Olivia Colman's character Sonya has a lot of other things going on and things you haven't seen yet. Her character definitely steals the show every time she's on the screen, and so I think there's a whole lot more to play with there. And maybe Martin Freeman's character, Everett Ross, is going to have something to do with this as well, and there may be some cameos coming up in terms of someone like Julie Louis-Dreyfus's character. I could see that popping up, maybe playing a role in some Thunderbolts things that might pop up. But there's a whole lot coming, and I think episode 4 and 5 are really going to turn the tables on this, and it's going to crank up really fast. This episode 4, is typically the turning point in some of these Marvel shows. Something epic tends to happen here that's kind of game-changing, and so we'll wait to see. I'm curious what you guys think. Do you believe any of these theories? Do you think they're all kind of connected? I tend to think so, but I'm really excited to see what you guys think. Add those things in the comments. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and then share this thing all across the multiverse. And as always, guys, when the next one drops, we catch you right back here. Later.